Going guys, Cracked Rack here, back in Billings, Montana for a bit. It's a really ugly, shitty, hideous place, but the reason this video is special, oh fuck you fucking cars. God damn it, I can't fucking stand you guys.
You've got to understand that Cracked Rack has a very specific style of entertaining where he comes off as a little bit too edgy, and that's part of his brand, but then with that he tends to focus too much on very questionably stereotypical things like, oh no, the transients, oh no, the heroin users.
This is where people do heroin, commit suicide, I mean, go on massacres. It's a bad place. There are police sirens here every single night.
Are the heroin users in the chat with us right now, buddy? So he mentioned the Moss Mansion, which is now a historic house museum. Now, I hadn't even heard of this place. Did a little bit of research. It turns out that it does have some ghost sightings, but the most haunted place in Montana is an exceptional stretch. And he mentioned that he'd been here twice before. And one time that he was here, he was almost arrested by the police. Judging by how he was going around while he was here, it was because it wasn't open. So my first thought to that was, what are the hours? And it turns out that it's open 7 days of the week. So rather than get all up at him and try to comment in his comments that he's turned off because that's why we can't have nice things, I figured, why don't I just rise to the occasion, drive over there and take a look at this Moss Mansion. Who knows? Maybe we'll find some ghost heroin. The Moss Mansion Museum is located in downtown Billings, and although it was originally a house, the entrance to the museum is actually from the basement, so it makes sense to go through the garden to get to it. Now, it's not quite spring as I record this, but as you can tell, this is a pretty large garden. The walkway itself is very well kept. The grounds show quite a bit of care. It would not surprise you to know that events to this day are regularly hosted here, both private affairs and local community events. Now, one interesting thing about all of these bricks that we're looking at here is that each one has been placed in honor of someone who's no longer with us. Each one of these is a memorial, and there's not a small number of them. This house has been a museum since 1986, and this is just one of the ways that the Billings Preservation Society fundraises to continue to pay for the upkeep for this museum. The Moss Mansion was built in 1903 at a cost of about $105,000. In today's currency, that would be just shy of $4 million. So it was absolutely an extravagant affair. It's got 28 rooms, 3 floors, and a basement. It's a nice little house. As you can tell, there's even more of an open space. Here we can see what the mansion hours are. But we're actually going to want to go down these stairs to the right here. You can tell because there's a giant sign that says, "Enter." Seriously, this is such a narrow stairway. Also, if we continue to walk past that entrance, there is more garden area. And despite the fact that it's not quite spring, I'm absolutely just floored with how beautiful the layout is. I suspect I'm going to want to check this out again in the summer, just to see how everything holds up. Over here is a bench that Cracked Rack had a conniption over, honoring passing of a longtime volunteer, Mackenzie Walters. She was 34 when she passed away. The basement entrance opens up to the gift shop, where there's a number of volunteers ready to answer your questions. There is a 15-minute long video that kind of explains the history of the house. You can follow the family tree of Preston Boyd Moss, his wife Martha, and their 6 children. Not everything is hands-off. For example, this is a display in the museum of a series of mailboxes, and you can read all of these letters, and they're copies of actual letters that had been written by various family members, just to kind of give you an idea of the sort of things that people were writing about during this time period. If you're wondering what sort of person thinks these narrow flights of stairs is a good idea, you can thank New York City architect Henry Johnway Hardenberg. He's also known for designing the Dakota or the Fairmount Copley Plaza. Fortunately, once we kind of get over that staircase itself, we get to explore more of the house proper, including this beautiful kitchen. As I understand, this is the original tiling. There's also some recipes here. The dining room leads to this narrow kitchen, complete with an icebox. It's hard to explain the sense of awe you have when you're in this building. The sound echoes in a pleasant way, and yet it's not too loud, even with other tourists in the mansion. And the whole feeling makes you want to kind of step lightly. As you can see, the parlor is meant for entertaining people who look a little better in a green shirt than I do. One of the daughters was well known for her ability to play the harp. And this is the entrance hall, complete with a coat rack room. From here, we can go into the study, and likely the office of Mr. Moss. Preston Boyd Moss was billed as the man who built Billings, and while that is a bit of an exaggeration, it's also difficult to understate just how much his influence did to help Billings grow as a town, what with his first interstate bank and the various enterprises that he was involved with. You can just imagine him here drinking some tea with this fancy tea decanter. If I were to choose my favorite part of this mansion, it would absolutely be the solarium. It's so well lit. I love the flowers that they've got growing in here. And it just gives such a feeling of peace. You could imagine the Moss family taking a real sense of pride in the various flowers that they were growing here.
we were living in a house, I had 5 kids, and the only kid that was born here after they moved in was Virginia, and then Roosevelt back in the period, that became her room.
This placard made me laugh more than it should have. Imagine being the daughter of a very respectable figure, and you go down in history as being remembered as breaking some of the egg lamps. In this bedroom, there is no toilet in this bathroom because I guess people did their business in the sink. I'm kidding. It was probably taken out when they did the renovations. Keep guests from doing anything they shouldn't.
Like a toaster, yeah, women usually would heat their Marcells on a kerosene lamp or maybe a coal stove.
While the allegations of this mansion being haunted have taken kind of a back seat to just the amazing grandeur of the entire mansion, it's kind of interesting to take a look at this children's room and find the most haunting thing possible. Perhaps even in all of Montana. Oh God, I think this doll's gonna eat my face. Please don't eat my face. I don't want you to eat my face. No, God, she's sucking me in. No!
The pink light, that's what I figured.
Honestly, I went into this thinking that it would be kind of an interesting diversion for a normal Sunday morning, and instead I was completely blown away by how wonderful the mansion was, how wonderful the volunteers and staff were. I was very impressed with their knowledge as well as their willingness to share that knowledge. This was a great example of how the community can come together to hold on to a piece of Billings history. And not only did I learn something about Billings, but I got to experience something that I genuinely can't wait to share with my children. I think that this is one heck of a great museum. There is kind of an irony in that I was made aware of it because of the Cracked Rack video, where he doesn't really give it a whole lot of attention, and it seems like he's using this 100-year-old mansion as a set piece for his comedy, as opposed to really understanding it and building something up from that. Also, on my way out, one of the gift figurines jumped at me. And I say that kind of jokingly. I probably bumped it, but also kind of not, because I was very amused that I'd had this wonderful conversation with the lady who appeared to be manning the gift shop on this particular day. And on the way out, suddenly it fell, and she's jokingly pointed out, maybe it was haunted. I got a chuckle out of me. Cracked, if you're viewing this, I just want you to know that I do appreciate the hard work you put into your content, as well as what you've overcome with some of your toxic family members to get where you are. But sometimes the best way to move forward isn't to look at something and point and laugh, but to look at something and truly reflect on it and what it means, not just to us, but to the community at large, whatever that community might be. In this case, Billings, in the case of some of your other videos, internet groups, things like that. Mostly, though, for everyone else that's watching this, if you find yourself in Billings, you can get a self-guided tour for $12, and it was well worth it to me. I spent about an hour in this place, so definitely give it a shot.